In this week's episode, we're going to take the laundry room from this to this. Stay tuned to find out how we did it. If you recall from our first episode, we used to have a stacked washer and dryer. We also had a large 40-gallon hot water heater too. First step was removing the hot water heater with a tankless hot water heater, as you can see in the top left corner, and then unstacking the washer and dryer. So we bought this 30-inch cabinet. We figured it's better to do a cabinet than open shelving, since you can kind of put stuff away and you don't have to look at it, especially in the laundry room. And we think this is big enough for the space, but not too big either. So it's really nice. You can buy these pre-made at your local hardware store. And this one, like I said, it's a wall cabinet, so it's 12 inches deep, 30 inches wide, and I think 30 inches tall as well. And then this is the shaker style, which is just basically the style of the door, which is simple and clean, and it's not too ornate. And then it came with shelves put on the inside. And so when we install this, first thing I'll do is I'll take off these doors so it's easier to put up, since it'll be lighter, as well as it's easier to mount the two handles on the front as well. So easy enough. Before removing the doors, I wanted to make sure that the right door wouldn't hit the wall when I installed the cabinet. And as you can see here, there doesn't seem to be any issues. However, in some cases, you might need to put a filler strip in between the wall and the cabinet so that the door doesn't hit it. After finding the stud locations in the laundry room, I measured what those distances were off the side of the wall and transferred those measurements onto the cabinet. So now I can pre-drill for the screws that we're going to use to install the cabinet. Here you can see we marked out where we wanted the bottom of the cabinet with blue tape, so it was easier to install. Here you can see I'm putting in the screws just a little bit so that they stay in place and I don't have to hold them in my hand. Then it was time to reinstall the doors, with new handles as well. Okay, so we wanted to put a countertop on top of the laundry, but there's just not much space. Previously, I've done some stuff where we put, boards here, a board here, and a board here, and then put the countertop on top of that, but we just don't have the room for it. So what we ended up coming up with is attaching a board into the studs here, and then another board on this side with the same thing, attaching to the studs. And then I'm going to cut two 2x4s that I already have. However, I'm going to cut them so they're inset, so they're flush with the top of this, going all the way across. That way we minimize the total height that we need to put the counter on top. And then once those are in, that's kind of the skeleton. And then we have a 2-foot by 5-foot pine edge glued board that we're going to put on top. And then we'll put a nice trim piece on the front to cover up all this stuff on the inside. And what I'm doing now is I cut these a little long so I could put a level on top to see exactly where I need to screw in this side and screw in this side to make sure that it's perfectly level, because you can't exactly see, but this floor is extremely unlevel, and so I couldn't just measure up the wall on both sides and call it a day. So this is basically resting on top of the washer, and then this is resting on top of these pipe clamps, and it just so happens that this is honestly perfectly level. So I'm just going to raise this side up just a hair, just so that you can pull in and out the washer and dryer, and this isn't putting too much pressure on it. And then same thing on this side, just raise it up a hair and we should be fine. So let's go after it. That's not what I meant to say. I meant to say let's get after it. Alright, so I've cut my two 2x4s to length and I pre-drilled the holes, so now we're going to go ahead and screw these in. Here I'm using a scrap piece of wood as a guide for my table saw to cut down the countertop. And now I'm setting the depth of the saw just so it's barely beneath the surface. This is always the nerve-wracking part. Looks good. There were a few water pipes in the way of the back left corner, so I had to cut the notch out for those. I then attached a back piece of trim so that nothing would fall behind the washer and dryer. Made sure to fill all my nail holes with some wood putty. I used a water-based polyurethane to protect the countertop. And that's a wrap on this project. In total, we spent only about $150 on this total project, and the cabinet alone was $100 of that. The countertop, trim, and all the other pieces only added up to about $50, so this is a really manageable and budget-friendly project. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. And if you want to stay even more up to date, we also have an Instagram and TikTok. Thanks for watching, and happy building.